Hi, it's Jonathan Fitzgordon again. I'm here with Alicia Raquel, and we're going to look now at a muscle called multifidus. And interestingly, this is just a test. Like what I'm going to show you is a multifidus test that you would go to physical therapy with back pain, and they'll do this to see what kind of tone you have. I actually do it as an exercise in my yoga classes. You could do it as an exercise for yourself to see what kind of tone you have, and you could also do it as an exercise to build tone. So it's a really great shape. Multifidus is a particular muscle. It's a spinal muscle. It runs up the entire spine, but it's concentrated at the base of the spine. It stabilizes the spine to the pelvis, and its function is it extends the spine when it contracts, when both sides contract, and when just one side contracts, it flexes to the side, sort of like the QL, side stretching, and it rotates the opposite side. So it'll flex one side and rotate the opposite side, and when both are working, it extends the spine. And in the context of yoga, I am endlessly teaching multifidus poses because I love shalabhasanas, laying on the back and lifting the body up, lifting the trunk up. All planks and forearm planks work multifidus. Very key muscle to have strength in, especially for back pain. So tiny little arch in the lower back. That's great. You feel that shift? So that was nothing. Like, I'm sure that wasn't readable on the video, but that tiny shift is a lot. Pull the sides of the neck up a little bit as you're looking. That's great. So I'm going to call that neutral spine. I think you look really good there. How do you feel there? Does that resonate? That's just great. Okay, so now the test is very, very simple. All you're going to do is take the right hand 1/2 inch up off the floor and the left knee 1/2 inch up off the floor and hold. And that's it. So you have just activated multifidus, and you're going to see how well it stabilizes you, right? How well is it stabilized? And what's interesting is it's not this that gives you the information. It's really when you do it on the second side that gives you the information. Release. That looked pretty good. You moved, but you weren't all that wobbly. But I really want you to feel the difference in the two sides. So left hand, right knee, just 1/2 inch up off the floor. Beautiful. And I'm looking to keep you here about 10 seconds because that's a pretty good length of time. And lower. Which was more stable? Which side?
The first felt more stable to me.
That's really interesting. I thought the second side looked a little more stable, but you moved towards me a little. Did you feel that at all? I'm on this side, but I felt like you kind of shifted your weight. But what's interesting is, now that we have warmed up the muscle, I think it'll be easier immediately. So first side again, right hand off the floor, left knee. So as an exercise, like when I'm teaching in yoga, Alicia's doing this beautifully, which is the hip comes up, but the knee doesn't go back, the knee doesn't come sideways, the hand doesn't move. It's just taking opposite sides off the floor to make this stabilize. And it's only going to do what it can do. Does it seem easier this time?
No.
I was going to say, it doesn't look it. And release. Nice. Left hand, right knee. And do you get a sense that you're shifting more to the left when you lift when you do this side, or no?
No.
Okay, no worries. I might be wrong. And release. What?
My neck. So that time I forgot to pay attention about my neck being long. And
Great.
It definitely did that. And the first time I was getting shakes right here.
That's great. So when you think about multifidus, one of the things about the spine, one of the things about the spine that's really interesting is you have these series of muscles, right? Multifidus is not necessarily an erector spinae, but it is a spinal muscle, and you have many spinal muscles that run up and down. And the chain that they work in is really super cool because they don't just run up the spine. They will run from if on the back of the spine you have a spinous process and a transverse process, right, which we'll look at in other videos, there'll be all these different crosshatch patterns. So it'll go from a transverse to a spinous, and then from a transverse sometimes to a second spinous, to a third, like all these different muscles have different patterns. And so even though they're individual little muscles, they all work in a chain. And that's one of the things I'm talking about with the psoas and back pain all the time, is that when your psoas is not well aligned, which doesn't allow the lower back to be in the right place, which doesn't allow muscles like multifidus and erector spinae to engage and activate, you're going to feel that in your neck. That even though they're individual muscles, and we talk about multifidus as being something deep in the base of the spine, it runs up the spine, right? Not all the way to the occiput, but it runs up the spine. And when you don't have tone in the lower spinal muscles, you can have tone in the upper spinal muscles. And that is an unbelievably important thing when it comes to understanding how pelvic alignment affects the head, neck, and shoulders, right? Over and over, people come to me with shoulder problems, and I'm like, you got to stick your butt out. You got to get your pelvis to line up. When your pelvis lines up, then you have possible access to deep core muscles like transverse and multifidus and the pelvic floor and your psoas. Let's do that one more time to get a sense of that. So these muscles, they work in a chain, and even though they're distinct, they are not distinct. They work together, but if you do not have tone here, you will not be able to have tone there. That's just part and parcel of the practice. Right foot, left knee. Right hand, left knee. Nice. And is this different feeling in your neck because you're aware? So this is mean. You ready? I want you to let go of your abdominal tone. And what happens to your neck?
Oh, yeah.
And release. Left hand, right knee.
That time I feel myself go towards you.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Now let go of your tone. Such an interesting thing to see. And you torque more when you did that. Do you feel that? Nice. And release. Come and sit. This gets into a whole other video that we'll cover about ideal resting length, which is that you're trying to build muscle, build tonus in muscle such that when you're doing nothing, it has really good tone, right? You're trying to create muscle that just works for you all the time. You don't want to think about it. So like when that muscle is toned, you don't have to engage to take the hand and knee off the floor. You just take the hand and knee off the floor and everything works. And you're trying to learn how to build balanced tone to make these things effortless so that they don't have to. When I do yoga or teach yoga, I don't want personally or people to be making muscles, even though I'm teaching them to do that. But once you're strong, the muscles are made for you, if that makes sense. They just engage when you want. So again, we're looking at multifidus, a deep spinal muscle that's very, very responsible for a great deal of back pain.